This is News Talk.
Well, AstraZeneca back on the front pages. We'll start with the Irish Independent, and this is the story that more than 400,000 people who are waiting on a second dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine have been told that they cannot travel abroad. The vaccine bonus, as it's called for those who are a month on from their first AstraZeneca jab, does not involve foreign travel. This is new updated advice from the HSE, and obviously this particularly affects people in their 60s and also a lot of people who have underlying health conditions who got the first AstraZeneca dose, waiting on the second, and I suppose hoped for that promised vaccine bonus and thought that they might be able to travel. You can't really go abroad. You're certainly being warned not to go abroad. Public Health England has previously found that one dose of AstraZeneca and Pfizer gives just 33% protection against this Delta variant, which originated in India. So that's the latest advice from the HSE. The Irish Daily Mail also covers AstraZeneca on its front pages. We are the forgotten of vaccines. Health experts and politicians are calling for older and vulnerable groups to be fully vaccinated as soon as possible before the Delta variant can take hold. Doctors and immunologists say many over 60s and others fear they are the forgotten ones as they await their second shot of the AstraZeneca vaccine. Now, obviously, we are changing it, aren't we, from 12 weeks to 8 weeks, the waiting period. But there are an awful lot of people, and I know certainly parents of friends who got the first AstraZeneca dose quite a while ago and they're still waiting for their second, and now they're saying that they do feel that they have been forgotten about, and there are concerns that the AstraZeneca vaccine is not as effective against the Delta variant, and there's research ongoing into that the whole time, but it's a big clamour just to get that second dose. That's on the front of the Mail. The front of the Irish Examiner talks about arrivals from Britain ahead of this big cabinet meeting today. Unvaccinated passengers arriving in Ireland from Britain by air or sea will have to isolate at home for at least 10 days under tighter restrictions to be approved by Cabinet today. Approval for the plan was given after a meeting with Micheál Martin, Leo Varadkar and Eamon Ryan last night. And it sounds like there is significant concern at government level about this Delta variant. Also on the front of the Irish Examiner to do with COVID-19, I mean, just the amount of money that we had to spend on PPE last year. The state had to pay what's called an astronomical €915 million buying PPE last year. For the first time, the true scale of the hugely inflated spend on PPE is revealed. 3 companies earned between 102 and 226 million euro, and another 11 companies earned between 10 and 50 million euro from the government for PPE. That's certainly the right business to be in last year there. Defending the spend, the HSE said all products received were reviewed against quality standards as specified by the WHO. Gino Kenny, who obtained the figures, the TD, said that the numbers paid are astronomical, and he says it would be interesting to see how much of the equipment purchased last year was deemed unusable for its medical setting purpose. That's probably something that'll run and run, particularly when we have this big famous inquiry that we're going to have into the state's handling of COVID-19. That'll be a big factor in it. Final COVID story for you comes from the Irish Times. Reopening to proceed despite concern over Delta variant, and this is a big worry for people. I suppose we look across the water and what's going on in Britain, and Boris delaying the full reopening in England by 4 weeks until the middle of July, and maybe there's a question mark over that too. We don't know. I suppose people here worried. Could we see similar impact on our reopening? But the Irish Times says plans for a wider reopening of society on the 5th of July will not be affected by the possibility of the highly transmissible Delta variant. And senior government sources are dismissing the suggestion that reopening could be delayed, saying the narrative that our reopening will slow down is not true, according to one minister. And that minister also added that the UK was at the final stages of reopening. And that's a fair point. I mean, in the UK, there were talking about reopening nightclubs. We're nowhere near there. And if you listen to Barry White's report on nightclubs on News Talk Breakfast yesterday, we're a long way away from reopening nightclubs, so it's not going to be affected on July 5th. Certainly not on the 15th of June anyway, that's what we're being told. Now, the Irish Daily Mirror front page, an exclusive by John Hand, fresh evidence could finally solve the murder of Michaela McAreavey on her honeymoon in Mauritius. The Mirror has an interview with a lawyer who said a new team will look at the case with fresh eyes, and he told the Irish Mirror there will be new evidence and we are still fighting. And your heart would go out to Michaela's family, who've had to go through the most awful 10 years now, but there is new hope, and this review into the case hopefully will shed some more light on what happened and bring people to justice. Speaking of courts, the Irish Daily Star, the Irish Sun and the Herald all have the same story. Mob's wag man is the front of the Star. The Irish Sun, Mr. Nobody's wife and mistress washed €1 million from mob, and the Herald, €1.3 million cartel love triangle. This is Kinahan cartel Lieutenant Declan Brady, as he's described in the Herald. His wife and his mistress laundered more than €1.3 million in crime cash through transfers that included mortgage payments on a villa in Spain, the Special Criminal Court has heard. Now, inside the papers, very interesting report in the Irish Independent this morning. If you're going to look at a house, you might now have to show that you can afford to buy the house. This is just, by the way, to even look at the house. You're not at the stage of putting an offer in or anything, but to walk through the door and view a house, you could have to show your financial details, which are quite sensitive. And this is the story that the Data Protection Commissioner has been asked to investigate after an estate agent told would-be buyers that they must show proof of funds before they can view a house. Savill said prospective buyers hoping to view the houses in Lucan first have to provide a raft of financial information. So to go and look at these houses, you'd have to show mortgage approval, also evidence of all savings that would be used in the purchase, evidence of the Help to Buy grant, and evidence of gifts from family members if they're being used. Cash buyers were told that they must provide a bank statement or letter from a solicitor confirming funds are available. And a quote from the estate agent to would-be buyers says, "It is unfortunately not adequate to state that you have savings or will qualify for the Help to Buy grant. You need to provide evidence." A lot of opposition TDs quite angry about that, and now the Data Protection Commissioner being asked to investigate it. Not the first case of this, by the way. Just looking on Twitter there, people talking about this, not to do with this particular company, but other companies, back as far as 2019, that this has been going on, even to view a house. Lovely story in the Irish Examiner, which we're told a 17-year-old boy who saved a mother and daughter from drowning last month has been hailed a hero and an inspiration by the President. And Miley Doran has received an invitation from President Higgins to visit Áras an Uachtaráin. You may have heard this story last month. Miley rescued Stacey Foley and her daughter Sophie Foley Smith after the pair got into difficulty near the banks of the River Barrow in Carlow, and President Higgins said he was enormously impressed to hear of the young traveller boy's courageous and selfless actions. What I love about this story, Miley is so modest that when he got home, he never even told his mother that he'd saved the lives of 2 people. How was your day? Yeah, grand. Didn't get up to much, when actually he's just saved 2 lives. It's an incredible story. Now, The Guardian this morning covers this GB News. I'm sure you're aware of it. This is the new TV channel for news in Britain, and we're told that it was watched by more people than both the BBC News and Sky News. Despite several technical glitches. GB News peaked in its opening minutes with 336,000 viewers, a lot more than Sky and BBC News at that time, and that's despite some technical glitches where microphones weren't even working. It has been compared to Fox News, but Andrew Neil, who founded it, he's made clear that the channel will focus on the so-called culture war being waged by many right-wing figures. And Andrew Neil said, "We are proud to be British. The clue is in the name, GB News." And that's all grand until you hear that Andrew Neil lists his main residence as living in France. But we are British, of course. Now, 2 final stories for you. One from the Irish Independent, and if you think your family life is busy, well, wait till you hear about this. A man believed to have the world's largest family has just passed away, and the reason it's in the news is that he has 39 wives, 94 children, 33 grandchildren and 1 great-grandchild. This is Iona Chana, who was head of a polygamous Christian religious sect. And he said that he considers himself a lucky man to be the husband of 39 women and the head of the world's largest family. And apparently they had a rota system for which of his wives would share his bed at night. Anyway, that family obviously grieving there, but it is the world's biggest family. And final story for you, we have the best dad joke officially crowned. A chip shop worker has been crowned the winner of a best dad joke competition, and this is in the Star this morning. The man is Austin May, who beat off 2,700 other cringeworthy entries. I'll give you the joke. He said, I once hired a limo, but when it arrived, the guy driving it walked off. I said, excuse me, are you not going to drive me? The guy told me that the price didn't include a driver, so I spent 400 quid on a limo and have nothing to chauffeur it. Forgive you now if you're choking on your cornflakes this morning with that.
On 106 to 108 FM and at newstalk.com. This is News Talk.